Well, good afternoon. You really came very fast. It's such a pity that that you couldn't see the dance you did just to get over here. And I agree with you, Marjorie. Open innovation is extremely important. We do talk about it, and we have been doing ever since this morning. We've evoked it in different ways. But how do we improve on it? Now, in Paris-Saclay, there is this challenge of open innovation, which would enable us to give importance to different projects which might be proposed. So let's just cover all these ideas here with you. Sylvain Clémendo from Total, hello. Alain Schmidt from EDF, hello. Jimmy Colomy from Tryon, good afternoon to you as well. And Pierre-Olivier Viac, let's start with yourself. Tell us a little more in detail. What is Drim In Saclay? What exactly is Drim In Saclay? I understand the idea, but how does it work? How does it operate? How was this project born? It was born about 5 years ago. In fact, it was a professional theme in terms of ecological transition. So in other words, it meant that we called upon industrial partners, all our big key partners, who will be here as well, and who had something to do in ecological transition. They had a goal set out for them, and so they turned to us, the Chambers of Commerce, to help source with startups and with small businesses, laboratories, to help them to look for the right skills and a solution to find, in fact, an answer to this solution. So we are a small team. We are between 5 to 10 experts, and we work together for 2 days with these key accounts. We have a coach who's available for the team and with a method of innovation. Yeah, so you have... well, how do you define these challenges? Is it in your core business, in a given business, or is it just about ecological transition? How do you select them, and how many do you select per year? Tell us about it. Tell us, you know. Well, these challenges are given to us from all our key partners, our key accounts, because they are looking for a solution. And so the main theme behind it, all these ideas, all these challenges must have an environmental benefit. You heard about 2 ideas from Total and EDF, but they're all involved in environmental transition. So it's all the manufacturers, the producers who will propose them. And you select them so that these challenges can really be organized, because sometimes these challenges can be a bit too theoretical, a bit too hypothetical, and not practical. So we select between 10 to 12 for each edition of Drim In Saclay. So you select startups who get together to try and find a solution to the challenge made to the company. And they get together for 2 days. They brainstorm for 2 days, maybe a weekend or at night, since it's essentially young children, young students. They work as they like. So you've to see if they gel together. Yes, they gel generally, because generally we select those because who've got the right skills, the right knowledge, and we have to make sure that they fit and match what we're looking for. And then we have a coach and a method to ensure that everyone gels well together. And after that 2-day brainstorming, there's a solution that's presented. Right, I understood what was done. But Sylvain, now, you are Director of Mission and Innovation at Total. You tell us how you defined your challenge. And how can Drim In help you? Perhaps just by yourself you'd have found them. You might have found startups by yourself. Well, good afternoon. I'm in charge of innovation, as you said, in refinery and chemistry in Total. That represents all the factories, and these are the petrochemical refineries that make the raw material. Now, what we were interested in was the method that Pierre-Olivier described, and that is to put people together to brainstorm on a given subject that we might be getting stonewalled by. So we wanted a challenge which wouldn't be too difficult and not too easy either. But is it something important for you? Is this challenge something important for you? Is it something that you've always had in mind, or was it just this opportunity that you thought up this idea? Of course, you're going to describe it to us, because compared to Total, you're not really looking for something new. It's really something unique. Yes, we were looking for the right composition, that is, the right kind of people who would participate from Total.
To have a topic that is going to raise benevolence, and the challenge we've chosen has to do with preservation of food, and it's quite far away from refinery, but this is related to plastic. So we have energy transition, waste management, and we have focused on plastic being a barrier, so we've tried to see what was the use of the future to have around the table. People were going to think about this issue, and our objective was to have ideas, not necessarily solutions, but we are very happy because we received 3 ideas coming from 3 different startups. It's not 3 different startups. We have 2 startups plus academics plus external people who have proposed 3 potential solutions that could solve our problem. And I have 2 questions in mind. Who can work on the food film in your company? Well, we already have teams working on that, and they've taken part in the challenge, and they have been developed to take up this challenge. Or you already had people working on that? Well, we have teams that we have set up to take up this challenge so that they give their opinion as experts and that they can contribute or react to the ideas coming from the startup. That was interesting. This is what is interesting about open innovation. So, what are we going to do now to wrap our products? So, with that dreaming method, we said, okay, the topic is too broad, so we're going to focus on bulk, which is new in France and Europe. So we wanted to say, well, we wanted to think about the other countries, Africa and others. So that's why we focused on bulk. And one of the key ideas that we thought was interesting was to place ourselves in the recycling chain, because to be able to recycle plastic products and try to set up barriers to limit pollution. So bulk to limit the use of plastic and barriers to stop plastic polluting. So those people came up with ideas in digital, for example, and that's something that was we were working on, but not in relation to plastic. So that's a way to speed up things. So, and now we will have to choose a solution, and maybe this is something you will talk about next week. What about you at EDF? Is that your first cooperation? Alan Schmidt, I'm part of EDF R&D. This is also an innovation department where we have different entities for EDF activities, and I'm part of the virtual reality entity. And we are connected to everything that has to do with electric mobility. So this is not our first cooperation. We had one 2 years ago on electric mobility. As you can see, I am in a wheelchair, so we wanted to promote mobility with wheelchairs. So we had this first cooperation. 2 years ago how to provide electric assistance to a wheelchair. So we had 10 people coming from different backgrounds, so that was very broad, ideas coming from any areas, you know. We looked at skateboards, rolling boards, and so on. So you can think very broad. Yes, it's called Dream. So first day is really creativity, you know, all ideas are to be put on the table. At the second day, the end of the second day, we are going to, you know, focus a bit more. So gradually we reduced the spectrum, and then, you know, there were other possibilities, but gradually we are going to reduce the scope for the follow-up of the service. So that's why we had this electrical scooter and the skateboard. So how many people are working on that? On these topics, you always have 2 to 3 people each, and for the electrical scooter, we have a prototype that has been developed. We would like to distribute it as much as possible in open source, you know, testing it with users. So that's why we've worked with a university in Versailles with a CRM, which is a center for the resources of handicapped people. So here you have a video that you can see, and this is a prototype. So you have this sole that enables to fix the wheelchair on the scooter. It has to be fixed easily. You have to be able to use it alone, and the person has to be able to drive around with the system and to unfix it from the scooter. It should be as easy as for a person who is not disabled. And here on the screen you can see another prototype that is under survey. This is Philippe Savivor from Air France, and this is with an overboard, because in Air France they have a lot of overboard remaining in the airports, because they're not always put back in the planes and not always collected. So there were quite a few of them that could be used for prototypes. And what happens after the prototype phase? Well, we have not started the industrialization phase. We are in the testing phase and the prototype phase, and the next stage will be industrialization, setting up a startup, or working with existing startup. And for your information, for scooters, we are in touch with an existing startup called Omni, which is working on the possibility to adapt their scooters to wheelchairs. So the this first challenge was 2 years ago at the last session, and because everything went well, we decided to stay in touch, and we thought we could start again this year. So this year, again, still related to electrical mobilities, we wanted to provide an assistance, a kind of robotic cart that would help someone, because in a wheelchair it's always more difficult to carry things. If you want to go further away, you need someone to help you. So, you know, a cart that would be close to you would help you to overcome obstacles, not go upstairs, you know, but very often in France you have buildings where you have 1 or 2 steps to climb before entering the building, and very often you're stuck in front of the building. So if you have this small car that helps you to transport your suitcase, let's say, and that would also help you overcoming an obstacle, that would be very useful, and that doesn't exist for the moment. So there are things in different areas. You have electrical wheelchairs with multi-wheels, but this is very heavy. You need a specific vehicle to transport that, and we also have another system I mean, you have different participants that have collected pieces of information from different areas, having their own state of mind, their own knowledge. So it has led to many different ideas. And were you surprised by things? Yes, of course. More than half of the things that have been proposed are things I had never thought of. You know, I was really focusing on a handicap, and the things they came up with was broader, you know, military systems with a trail and so on. And you have also a system for nuclear maintenance, you know, semi-smart car that can carry equipment can be used not only for disabled people but for other purposes. Does it always work? Because 100% of the winners, you know, 100% of the people who have won. Sorry, I did it wrong. We have 60% of challenges that have led to partnerships. Sometimes it takes a bit of time because it doesn't take place overnight. We will have the next speakers who participated to this session.
Et justement, ce sont plus des industriels ou des startups qui viennent vous voir?
Earlier, do you have more industrial startups coming to see you? Well, do you have more industrial people at the beginning? Well, this is a challenge, so very often this is industrial people taking part to it. Did you bring the solution or the challenge? Well, I brought the solution. Jimmy Colomier, you are the co-founder of Tryon. Could you tell me how you are the solution? Well, we participated a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, to the micro-methanization challenge of the EDF. So we took part to this roundtable to see how we could come up with a solution for methanization. You know, this is a bit like improved compost. It enables to transform leftover from food, transform it into fertilizer and also a gas, so and what we would call a green gas. So you can rely on farmers who can produce waste and create methanization. But you're talking about micro-methanization. So the issue is that we're talking about large industrial or farm units that are relevant for them, but not for the small players distributed everywhere on the territory, and for which collection is going to be difficult. So micro-methanization is really a way to be closer to the small players and the production areas and reduce the impact. Can you tell me about the scale of micro-methanization? Methanization can be one farmer or 2 or 3. What about micro-methanization? It's not really defined, but when we're talking about micro-methanization, especially for waste and food waste, you have to think in terms of a distance and number of people generating a quantity of food waste, and we could talk in tons per year. But what we've developed following this brainstorm in Saclay is that we would come up with a solution that would address 1,000 to 10,000 tons per year. And the interest of the small scale is that it can be standard and pre-manufactured, and it speeds up the setting up and implementation of the units, because you don't have beforehand a whole phase of surveys, work, authorizations, and so on. You're talking about a pre-manufactured model that is going to be developed, delivered, and implemented. So for many of the projects, it takes 10 to 10 years to be implemented, and many of them are not implemented because you have people opposing them. And for us, it takes 1 or 2 years. So what is micro-methanization? You're not going to create a micro-methanizing unit? Well, it's a bit like that. Everything is smaller. You know, we are going to make everything a miniature. But it's not that easy because usually it's difficult to move from small to big, but for methanization, where you're moving from big to small. So the whole work we had to provide was that to reduce the size. And what was interesting here is that we have met major players such as EDF, which are very useful for the rollout of such projects because they know how things are organized on the territory. So we have met the right players at the right time, and this is worth a lot, you know, when you have to roll out a concrete unit. So where do you stand now? Well, those players have enabled us to develop our first reference in the Yvelines. It's going to be implemented in September. So it's going to manage all the waste from canteens of junior high schools, you know, in Ile-de-France. This is something that doesn't exist for the moment. So this first unit will be implemented in Carrières-sous-Poissy in partnership with EDF and a local player that has made some space available for us. So that's why it's interesting to have these large discussions. Well, thank you to each of you for these nice projects. When is the next dreaming? Well, next year, but we started collecting dreamings in September 2021. Thank you to each and every one of you. Marjorie, what is also important in a Paris-Saclay ecosystem is to focus on other things. You know, we could talk about international cooperation.